Life After Sunday, a podcast by dudes, for dudes, where faith meets the real world. For Eric Duval and Mike Norman, I'm Chris Boren. Let's go. What is up, gentlemen?
Hello.
Mike. Howdy.
Good afternoon. Good Sunday nap time, and we're doing podcast, yo. We're working.
We gotta do what we gotta do. We gotta make time.
We're working.
That's right. For the people.
For the people. We got Casey back on the show this week. Excited to have him. Yeah. Before we get into his story, we want to take a quick detour to the opening ceremony of the Olympics.
Wait. Did something happen at the Olympics, Chris? I'm not familiar.
We'll inform you.
Oh, okay.
I think you must live under a rock.
That could. I mean, I know the Olympics are supposed to be on right now this time of year, but I turned it on and that wasn't the Olympics.
Yeah, it was like a cartoon with like a naked blue guy or something. What was that?
Yes.
Was that the Olympics?
A naked Papa Smurf.
I'll give everyone's got 1 minute. Mike, you're first. Go.
Well, first of all, I've been trying to confirm that I wasn't being led down the fake news path with the guy exposing his testicles up there, with the blue guy laying in the fruit, singing, and then all these transvestites. And, man, it was all scrubbed from the internet. So I couldn't ever verify that what everybody was showing was actually shown on TV. And a friend of ours has Peacock. She looked through it, and there was only a brief snippet of them showing the for lack of a better word, obese lady at the center, that was wearing the crown thing. So I couldn't ever confirm whether or not this occurred, but the universal condemnation of it across all platforms told me that it was probably true. Eric, were you able to confirm anything, or what do you think?
No. First of all, just my 1 minute real quick. My 1 minute little snippet is that the video that they showed of the year that Muhammad Ali came out, dude could barely walk and he lit the torch. We all remember that, dude. And because the Olympics are fun to watch. I mean, it's cool to watch the competition and people compete for their countries. And those special moments like the Muhammad Ali, and then you fast forward to today or yesterday, what happened? We've completely lost our way, completely and totally. But no, I have not been able to confirm the validity of that picture. I saw it on X. I'm like, this has got to be Photoshopped. But then if you watch all of it, is it really Photoshopped?
I saw a video clip where they were hanging out, but I wanted to see it like the whole thing and just organically, like I'm looking and I'm like, oh, there it is, but instead of it just being a clip.
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched the whole thing, and I'm not going to. I'm so glad I DVR'd it because I was wanting to watch some of the competitions and some of the sports. Man, it's just gross, dude. I mean, what redeeming value at all was there in any of that? It was, in my mind, it's strictly done for one reason and one reason only. That's to shove it in our face. To absolutely make fun of everything we hold dear and true, and say that this is our world now, not yours. Because I think one of the guys off Undaunted Life said it best. If they'd have done that to any other religion in the world, there'd have been an outcry and people would have got hurt or killed over it.
Yeah.
So
it's sad, man.
All I'd say is kind of like what Eric said is, and Olympics years gone past with Muhammad Ali, how inspiring and how amazing that was. And your heart was full of pride when you saw him fight through his disease and his battle to go up there to light that torch, and how awesome that was. And then to fast forward, even England, the way they did it with James Bond and the Queen, and how awesome that was. And it showed pride in their country and pride in some of the things that they did. And then I haven't seen any of what y'all are talking about. I've just seen snippets of it, like Mike said. And I'm so disappointed and unimpressed with it that I really, at this point, I have no aspirations to watch anything Olympic related, just because I think just like with anything else, you give it any kind of attention, you're letting them have the attention, and that's not where we should be. That they can have it. What's going to happen to them is going to happen to them, but it's gross. And I will concede the rest of my time to you, Chris. You can have the rest of my time.
I feel bad for the athletes, the ones that train so hard to get there, and people are going to, like you said, they're not going to watch, even if it's a Christian dude competing from the USA in diving or basketball or whatever. They're not going to watch that person because of what France did at the beginning, Paris did at the beginning of the ceremony. And
Well,
I've struggled with this, man, because like Christians are making absolute fools of themselves on social media, for one, and I don't think that's absolutely not how Jesus would handle the situation. And so on both sides, it makes everybody look terrible. The way Christians are handling it, what they did's terrible. There's no good thing coming out of it at all.
Well, I will say this. If this is one way to, I don't know, see the glass half full, the French have always been this way. If you recall back to when you're reading about the Revolutionary War days, when Ben Franklin would go over to Paris, you would find Ben, when they would come, visitors would come, he'd be surrounded with all those weird-looking women made up with that super white makeup. And I don't know if you've ever seen some pictures of that era, but you got to think in that era what that kind of person would have looked like to a biblical America at that time. Very conservative. They were white with bright red lipstick makeup and over-the-top hair and their chests hanging out. Old Ben loved to go over there and hang out with the ladies over there. And the French have always been this way, and they have obviously are going to continue this. So it's really been that way since our founding with the French. So if that makes anybody feel any better, it's always been that way. And old Ben went over there and partook in some of those activities. So that's our time on that. So what are we going to do next?
You're going to introduce Casey, and we're going to get started with his interview.
Is Casey here? Did he make it?
I think he did. Mr. Space City with a sick Houston Astros baseball jersey on. I love it.
One of the perks
I
of
need
having
one
a
of
daughter
those.
that actually works for the Astros now is I get swag. I can hook you
hello.
up. I can hook you up, Eric.
Baseball fan.
What? You hooked me
That's
up
true.
first.
You're
We've
right,
been friends
Mike.
longer.
You got to stop. You got to stop trashing.
I need
You got to
some
stop
years.
trashing Texas, though.
Oh, you know what? We need to have an episode where I do four
That's
good
true.
things about Texas.
I agree.
Really, probably just two. Maybe
Okay.
just two.
That will pain you.
Two
That will
good
happen.
things.
I already
good
know what
things.
they are. One of them's going to be HEB, and the other one's probably going to be ice cream. That's probably Mike's two favorite right there.
Well, HEB 1,000%. You get paid good there too. People make good money down in that concrete hellhole. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're
Sorry.
good.
So we were going to introduce, we started off with Casey last week, and then those news events stole the show. They tried to again this week, but we only gave them a minute apiece because we didn't want to find ourselves in, I don't know who told me this, but vomiting and licking it up over and over again, just regurgitating the crap that's gone on during the week. So we're going to stop that. I've gotten rid of Twitter and Facebook for a week. I'm going to take a vacation from this madness of this news cycle we've been on. Hopefully y'all will too. Give yourself a break.
I had to get prayer this morning at church for my anger issues with politics.
Yes. And then Chris and I spoke on Thursday, and we were both talking with our wives going, what is happening? This is a crazy world. I can't stand it. So anyway, Casey, Mr. Sunshine over there, good friend of mine for 25 years. Give you a little bit of background on his story. He is a Pasadena police officer in Pasadena, Texas, population 175 now.
170, somewhere around there. Yes, sir. 66 square miles.
Yeah. So been a cop. I went to the academy with him, and he is a former Marine canine dude. That's where he got his first kicks with the canine. He was eating crayons at the time too, because that's what Marines do.
Purple.
They love eating crayons. Yes, it's good stuff. And then after he served, he came back home to serve his community, where he's been a cop for 25 years. And before I get into your officer career, also you were married, you have 3 kids, and you have twin brothers that are also
I'm the twin. I'm twin to one of them. I'm the twin.
See. All right. So, and the twin is in Plano, and see, that's why twins are confusing. I have them myself.
And my oldest brother's in
LaPorte.
Plano.
So Plano's up there by Dallas, and LaPorte is our neighbor city right next to Pasadena. We work with them a lot. So your whole family serves. But he has been on patrol. We served together on patrol. He's been in the juvenile division. Poor guy, having to deal with kids. I could not do it. And then he's currently in the domestic violence division, investigating domestic violence, which has been a problem for the last few years, actually for a long time now. Did I miss any of your other units you had been in?
I did the honor guard for about 13 years, and I'm currently a crisis negotiator as well.
Good point. So honor guard is awesome because Casey is really good at it. He's got the physique for it, because you got to look good in your dress blues. He's gone to the police memorial in Washington, D.C. He's participated in multiple funerals, memorial events. He looks really sharp, and he does a great job with it. I was on that unit for a little while, and I hit the eject button because I couldn't do the funerals. They just tore my soul out. But Casey was one of the leaders in that unit. And then you also do the crisis intervention. So, again, another thing I could not do. My ADD kicks in and I'm gone. Casey sits out there with Craig and talks to these people for hours on end, and I would just hit the eject button and be gone. But that stuff is needed, and y'all saved some lives in that job. And you're also a school board president in Pasadena. And I think we covered it a little bit last week, but just hit the highlights again, because I want to talk about the size, because, I graduated with 72 people. Chris graduated with how many? He's muted.
About 130. About 130.
130. And so Eric's going to be the same as mine, roughly. So what's your senior class size?
When I graduated high school, we were, I remember my freshman year, our freshman class was almost 900, and we graduated a little over 300. And that's just one senior high school. Pasadena has now, we have actual 7 high schools, 5 proper high schools, and we have 2 alternative high schools. And when I say the difference between proper and alternative is, our alternatives don't have like band and football and all those extracurricular things. One's a technical high school, and the other one's for our student population that can't quite function under regular circumstances. But of the 5 traditional high schools, put things in perspective. My high school now, it takes about an hour and a half to get through literally the pomp and circumstance, the speeches, and then the procession of kids graduating. And then the bigger high school, Adobe High School, is our big high school. And they usually graduate somewhere in the ballpark about 500 kids. And we do our graduations now in Texas, where the Texans play at Reliant Stadium. And they never change out the seats, the same amount of seats for all the high schools. And my little old high school, we may fill up maybe a quarter of the seats they have out there, whereas Dobie And Memorial High School, they fill up almost all of the seats they have set out for everybody. It's amazing. And we do typically 3 high school graduations a day for 2 days. So.
And Chris and I sat through a Atkins High School graduation for my nephew just a few months ago, and you just contrast that where we went in the auditorium of the little high school. I mean, folks around who have not left this area just don't understand the scale in some of these cities. That's the thing I always tell people. And so your district alone has how many kids?
Ballpark it close to 50,000 kids district-wide. And
we can't even begin.
The largest school district in Texas is Houston, HISD. And another perspective is like Katy ISD. We have 7 trustees. Katy has 9, and they have, I think, twice as many high schools as we do. So you can only imagine how many high schools Houston has.
Yeah,
I want to say I looked at the numbers. I want to say HISD has 150,000 students. Like they have the equivalent of the population of my city in their school district alone. So if that puts them in perspective. I may be wrong on that, but they're massive.
Yeah, I think Jake's Katy School District's up to 9 6A high schools. And that's all you play during the football season. I mean, you're only playing Katy and then insert name of new high school. And since we moved there 7 years ago, there's been 2 new high schools built. And so that just shows you the scale. But going back to, let's go back to your Marine Corps days. So what made you even want to join the military, and why did you choose to eat crayons and not live in a dorm like I did?
So first and foremost, I love it when Mike tells people that he was in the military, and when he tells them he was in the Air Force, I correct him and say, no, he was in the Air Force. He wasn't in the military. I have I have 2 older brothers, and we all went to the same high school, and there was an ROTC program, and I looked up to them. I watched them every day, 3 days out of the week, put on a uniform and go to school in uniform, and we'd go to their competitions and stuff, and I idolized my older brothers. And I was like, well, when I go to high school, that's what I'm going to do. And lucky for me, the program still exists today, and I did that for 4 years. My senior year, I was actually promoted to the battalion commander. I was the senior student of our ROTC program, and we were battalion size. So there's 250 plus kids. And I like to put this in perspective. When I first started ROTC, the ROTC kids were kind of outcast kids you didn't really want to hang out with. I mean, there's some pretty cool kids, but there's some of them you just really didn't. You're just like, whoa. But by the time I graduated, by the time I got to my senior year in high school, you could walk down any hall in our school and look inside a classroom, and there was at least one student wearing an ROTC uniform, which says a lot. And we were actually, and I think my senior class had a lot to do with it going through the 4 years. Of course, we went through the Gulf War back then too, so that brought a lot of attention to us as well. That it made you appreciate what the armed services actually did. So I knew going into my junior year that I didn't make horrible grades, but I did make great grades. So I knew that I needed to think of something fast. So I was like, well, the Marine Corps is the way to go. So I went to my recruiter and I told him, look, I'll join the Marine Corps, but you have to guarantee me I want to be an MP because I want to be a dog handler. And my recruiter, he was like, that's a tough one to get into because the Marine Corps, small as it is, at the time, I think the Marine Corps was 77,000 strong active duty, and the MP field is so much narrower. And about almost a year to the day, he came back to me. Well, it wasn't that far. It was maybe 9 months. He came back and said, hey, I got you a guaranteed military police spot, which they can do. And he goes, the only downside is you have to enlist for 5 years. And which I think he's trying to sell me down the river. But I was like, okay. I said, that's fine. So we went down to the recruiter's office. At the time, I was only 17, so Mom had to go with me to sign because she knew, or actually I was getting ready to turn 18. So Mom had to go with me. And at the day I signed to enlist, he said, well, with signing for this, you'll get your choice of East Coast or West Coast or overseas. And I said, well, I'm going to go to the West Coast. And he goes, well, you also get a $2,000 signing bonus. And I said, well, I have this weird thing about odd numbers, so let's make it 6 years instead of 5. And he almost fell out of his chair. He looked up at my mom and was like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's serious." So my first hitch in the military, my only hitch in the military, was for 6 years from September of '92 to September of '98, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Dang, I don't think I realized that, Casey, that you did 6 and not the usual 4. Did your brothers make
My
it to
oldest
the military
brother,
as well?
James, he couldn't. He'd blown out his knee in football in high school, and so they medically disqualified him. Mark, he went in. He made it through boot camp, but he had some medical issues with his kidneys, and that disqualified him. He got out. So I was actually the first one of our family to make it all the way through boot camp. And Tracy joined. Tracy had some issues in 3rd grade. We all have a touch of dyslexia, so he had a learning disability. So he was a couple of years behind me in high school, but he joined the Marine Corps. And a funny story, I'll keep this real short, is when I graduated boot camp, I came back, the first person I saw was my recruiter. And he goes, "So how was it?" I'm in the recruiting office and I'm in uniform. And I looked down at him. I said, "It was good. I had a lot of fun." And he looked at me like, "I don't think anybody's ever told me Marine Corps boot camp was fun." Well, I'd spent 4 years preparing for it, both physically, mentally, and psychologically. So I was ready. It was fun. Now, there were times where I wanted to quit, and by the grace of God, I didn't. But I enjoyed it. And then to come back, and Tracy joins, and he calls me up. He says, "Hey, I joined the Marine Corps." And I'm like, "No, you didn't." He goes, "Yeah, I did." So he goes through boot camp, and he goes, "Hey, man, they're going to send me to MP school." I'm like, "Cool." He calls me from MP school and tells me, "Hey, they're sending me to Pendleton." I go, "God wouldn't do that to me. He's not going to send you to Pendleton with me." And they did. And lo and behold, they put him in the same platoon and everything. We lived together for about 3 months in the same barracks, in the same room. I was like, what did I do? I got away from him for 10 years. And so, yeah, we were stationed together and worked together for the better part of 4 years.
What are the odds?
That never happens. And you talk to people and they'll tell you that never happens. So
No.
I want to backtrack you to how did you know? What caused you to know even before you went in, like when you were in ROTC, that you wanted to be an MP and
my brother was a cop, and I loved everything about what he did because he's 10 years older than us. And to come home every day and tell us these cool stories about chases and car chases and guns and police stuff, we're all about that. So Tracy and I were just glued to him. We idolized him anyway. And then I've always been a dog lover. Always been a dog lover. Ever since I could walk or crawl, I've had a dog. And it was funny that my mom tells a story that the day they found out that I got to go to I got to go to dog school in Lackland, she told my oldest brother about it, and he was like, "Well, of course, it's Casey. He's always got to have a dog with him." And it's true. I loved it. I got there. I went through dog school. I think I was the only Marine in the class, and I graduated top dog out of the 8 or 10 of us that were there, and I loved every second of it. It is the best job.
And you were trained by what organization in the military?
The Air Force. The Air Force, yeah. My instructors were
Air Force. Air Force trains.
My instructors were Air Force personnel, Army personnel, and Marine personnel. We were trained by every branch of the service there. But yes, Mike, the host organization was the business I like to call the United States Air Force.
Because canine instructor people dealing with dogs have to have brain power. You can't eat crayons. So that they deferred to the Air Force.
I beat out 2 Air Force guys to be the top dog handler out of my class. So what does that say? And they were younger than I was.
I'll give you that. You were a smart Marine.
I don't think those 2 words go together.
Tell us something. Even though I worked with K9 in the Air Force, and I've worked with them in obviously police world forever, I still don't know that much about them. Can you tell us something about that the people out there might find just fascinating, like the number of like stuff about their ability to smell, and then I got to follow up on that.
So the interesting thing is, and this is how I always, anytime we did dog demonstration or anything, this is how I've always started out, is I would ask the question, what do you think the most powerful thing about this dog is? And 99.9% of the time, they would always say their bite. And their bite is good. They can crush bones in your hand. Their bite is so good. That is. But that's secondary. The most powerful tool a dog has is his nose. And I'll tell you why. Is if you think about it with us, We have just my line went blank, but we have a nerve in our brain that differentiates between smells, and it's about the size of your fingernail on your pinky. A dog's is about the size of a walnut. And to put that in perspective, when you walk into a pizza place or you walk into a bakery, you smell pizza or you smell brownies and cookies and all that other stuff. When you bring a dog into that situation, they smell the flour, the sugar, and all the other things. They can differentiate between all those. That's what makes them so incredible, the way that they're able to differentiate against odors and just minute amounts of odor. We'll take a toothpick and we'll introduce it to one of our odors. We'll put it in a jar with some marijuana or some cocaine or some heroin or whatever. We'll leave it in there for a week. We'll take a toothpick out and we'll go hide it someplace in a room. And it would take, you take your standard, let's say classroom size classroom in a school, it would take a police officer by himself or with a partner probably 8 to 10 hours to search that entire room to come back and tell me there's nothing in that room. Whereas a canine can go in there and they can search it within minutes and tell you, yeah, there's something in there or there's not. And they can pick up on that odor that is just saturated that toothpick. We do that all the time. It's amazing. The three of us, y'all sitting there and me sitting here, humans give off odor because of the food we eat, the soaps we use when we shower, and detergents we use when we wash our clothes. So you're dripping in odor right now. You don't realize it. Like where you're sitting, if you were to get up and walk away, your odor's still there. And a lot of times when we go to track human odor to go catch these bad guys, we'll bring the dog to that part of, this is the last place that they saw the person before they took off, and we'll drop the dog right there on that place where they're dropping all this odor, and they'll go on their track. This is my chance to ask you some questions. On some of our tracks, what we'll do is we'll ask people. We've had an elderly woman that wandered away several years ago, or we'll have kids that wander away, little kids. And so we'll always say, well, go get us an article of something that smells like the kids. What do you think the best article to bring a police canine to search for somebody is? Mike, you don't get to answer because you probably already know. Let Eric and Chris think about it and go. That's a good one, but disgusting. Eric?
Yeah.
Where do you spend the majority of your time? The most amount of time? In bed, right? Your pillowcase. Bring us your pillowcase.
Yeah.
Because your head, all that odor, heck yeah. We'll take it and we'll put the pillowcase in a paper sack.
Wow.
We'll bring our dog up. We'll open the sack, stick the dog's head in it, close the sack up, and away we go. And it's pretty amazing to watch these dogs work. I'm to this day, it is just so amazing the way they work and the success rate with what they're capable of doing. We have dogs that can they bring dogs into prisons because people are bringing cell phones in. So they're training the dogs to smell out the NiCad and the battery. And they'll bring in, we have cadaver dogs that can search for and find bodies that are in water. So, I mean, just if you can think it, chances are you can train a dog to do it.
Well, Casey, when you do that, like you said, you open the sack and you let them smell the pillowcase or whatever. And can they hold on to that for an extent?
Well,
you have to refresh it every so often.
What the dog actually does is they'll breathe in the odor, and what they actually do is they'll bring some of it in, and they're holding on to it, and their little memory will hold on to it, and we'll go and go and go until it looks like they're kind of burned out, and that's why we keep the pillowcase in the paper sack, and we'll recharge their battery with it, so to speak. If you've ever seen police canine, especially around here, Mike, I know you have. You see all of our dogs, when we reward them, we give them a PVC pipe, right? Well, there's reasons for that. Is how you begin to train a dog is, let's say, hypothetically, you want to train your dog on marijuana. So you take this PVC pipe, you put it in a jar full of marijuana, you seal it up, and you leave it sealed for a month. You take that PVC pipe and you throw it out into a field. The dog sees it, the dog searches with it and finds it, and you create more distance and then more difficulty with where you hide it and how far you plan it or whatever. And it gets to the point, Mike, I know you guys can correct me if you're wrong. You can see these dogs, whenever you just show them a PVC pipe, they lose their mind because it has been imprinted in their brain that odor gets them that toy. They will work themselves to death just to get that PVC pipe. interesting thing about dogs, and this is the other part about it, is a lot of times people think they just give you a leash and teach you some commands and you go with the dog, and they don't. We have to know anatomy as well. We also have to know first aid. I've been to first aid classes, advanced first aid classes with your dog in case it gets bit by a snake or shot or cut or anything like that, or what to do. But the dogs, if you ever run your thumb or your finger on the inside of your dog's mouth at the top of their mouth, and you can feel all the little ridges. Well, those ridges are there for a reason. There's an organ in there. It's called a vomeronasal organ. And what that allows a dog to do is when they have that imprinted PVC pipe of the odor and it's in their mouth, they're still smelling it coming through the inside of their mouth, and it's imprinting on their brain, which is what, I mean, you take a dog like a Belgian Malinois, they're psychotic anyway, and they're they're just off the charts amazing dogs. That you put that on their brain and you tell them, hey, I'm gonna go hide some drugs, and if I hide these drugs, you're gonna get this. They lose their mind to go do it. They will kill themselves to go find the odor.
While we're on training, how long do these dogs have to go through training before they are ready?
That's a good question. So it depends on the dogs. So most of your programs, like when we purchase a dog, the dogs we get are basically trained, but like they'll put them on a couple of odors, the basics, marijuana, cocaine, and heroin, and then it's up to us to whatever else we want to add to them. So it can take 3 months. So when our agency purchased the dog that I got, ballpark. What do y'all think? Police, basically trained police dog before he gets to a handler. How much do you think a basically trained police dog right now costs? Eric?
I would say
10 grand.
10
Eric?
grand.
Last time I checked, a basically trained, a little bit of patrol work, a little bit of narcotics, and a little bit of obedience. 16.5 is what a basically trained police canine goes for. Now, you take that dog, and so the way we do it is we purchase the dog, and then I go through a 3-week trainer's course or 3-week handler's course with that dog with the guy that I just purchased it from. We did this in Louisiana. Phenomenal guy. We called him, he's like Yoda for canine. Anyway, so he takes you through this thing, and at the end, the culmination of the training, you get certified, narcotics certified with your dog, and you have to do it every year. You have to have a proficiency of 70 or above. So I tell people, we get our dogs after they graduate high school. We take them back to the streets, and the training doesn't stop. We're required by our TCO license. We have to have X amount of hours a month with our dogs. Where at Pasadena, we always did a really good job, and we doubled it. We always did way more training than we needed to. And we work on narcotics detection. We work on handler aggression, vehicle patrol. We do all those things. We try to vary it up every day, something different. And by the time we're done with the dogs, those dogs are worth about $25,000. And that's just the dog alone. That's not counting their medical and their dental, because they get better medical and dental than we do. And then the $60,000 plus police car that they have, that's all for them. The only thing that's there for us is the steering wheel and accelerator. Everything else is for them. But those dogs are a tremendous asset. I like to tell people that people nowadays aren't scared of the police, and they're not scared of our guns. They're not. I've seen it firsthand. But you bring out a dog, that's it. And a case in point is there's an incident in LaPorte. This guy he'd burglarized a couple of businesses and stole an ambulance, and they chased him into our city. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And as soon as I'm 225 in Boulevard, Mike, you know where that's at. They get on the radio and they're like, hey, Pasadena, we're chasing this guy. Do y'all have a dog? Well, I was right there. And I instantly became part of their chase. And the guy wrecked out, and he jumped out of the car, and I had LaPorte police officers all around me with their rifles out, and they're ready to drill this guy if he does anything stupid. And he's got his hands up, but he's screaming at the cops, kill me, just kill me, just kill me. Well, Rambo and I got out. And as soon as I got Rambo out, he turned and faced me. And as soon as he saw the dog, his hands went down, and he hit the ground, and he didn't want any part of that. He did not want to be bit by a dog, and it bummed me out because Rambo didn't get to bite anybody. But at the same time, you're like, well, there you go.
Well, I got a question on that. So two things there real quick. So you said it kind of bums the dog out. Do you have to console the dog in that situation? Or
yeah, Rambo had a ball, so I gave him the ball, and that's not that's not the best alternative for it, but at least it gives him something to do. And I don't know if you've ever seen those Kong balls, right? They look like a black caricature of a honeybee, right? Well, if you ever see one, this is what I want you to do: is I want you to, at the base of it, there's a big hole. I want you to try to physically squeeze that shut. It's virtually impossible. And my dog sits in the back of my police car every day, and he closes it every day. He's just back there going, ay, 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 ay. So you know what that does to his jaws. And I always tell people, like, when people run from me, I'm like, this guy's an idiot. Rambo, go get him. And go and get him. I have videos. I have to send you guys.
What's the
Rambo taking people down?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. What's the average? Like, I know it could depend on a lot of factors, but what's the average? You put all that investment and time into these pups, and what's the average service time?
So your typical police canine now, you see nowadays, is a German Shepherd or a Belgian Malinois. German Shepherds are fantastic dogs, but if you've ever noticed how the German Shepherd's got a slope back, if you go back in history, we did that to them. People did that because it looked good, but what they did is they just about ruined the breed because German Shepherds have really bad hip dysplasia. So your typical German Shepherd, and I've seen some fireballs German Shepherds where you'll get about 6 good years of service out of them from the time they're about a year to 2 years old until they're about 7 or 8. Then you have to retire them because their hip dysplasia is so bad they can't walk. Whereas your Malinois is typically a lot smaller. But those guys are the cream of the crop, athletic. They're just amazing, psychotic dogs. They are the smartest stupid dog I've ever known. And we'll typically get 8. We retire our police dogs typically around 10 years. So you actually get more bang for your buck with a Malinois just because they're a little bit more durable. Remember, Malinois were bred to be herding dogs, so which is kind of funny because I mean they're highly intelligent. I've seen Malinois that can open doors and do things that are pretty crazy. So
when they retire, tell them how
beautiful thing about our agency is
retirement.
Typically they'll retire the dog to you. Sometimes, and it changes with mayors and city councils, but sometimes they make you purchase the dog for a crisp $1 bill. And then you have to sign documents that if anything happens, it absolves the city of any responsibility because we're turning over this dog that is capable of all these things. And so you have to sign this stuff. Or they do like they did me is they signed him over to me and I had to sign the paperwork and I got to keep him. And it's kind of funny because Rambo, for the first couple of weeks, he was a little confused because he would see me go to work in the police car. He didn't go. And he's like, I'd come home and he'd look at me like, did you get fired? What happened? Why are we not going to work? But after a couple of weeks where he got used to, my wife would bring him in the house and they bonded, which was a mistake because he turned into her dog than he was mine. So I'd come in and she's in her office working and he is laying at her feet and just loving being an inside dog. He barely raises his head when I walk in the door and I'm like, are you kidding me? We were out there fighting crime 3 months ago and now you're just staring at me like I'm bothering you. So yeah, we get to keep them.
That's kind of like Mike on retirement. That's like Mike on retirement.
So I had
exactly right. How long did he last?
Just like differentiate. Like, I just want to know, like, when he was working, like, at night, on the weekends, how was he? Like you said, was he ready to go to work? When you were ready to go to work? Would he play?
So Mike, to answer your question, I had Rambo for 5.5 years. And I had Ico for a year and a half. At one point in time, I actually had 2 dogs that overlapped. Mike got.
So that's retirement year.
Yeah.
That's retirement years. Right?
That was police service career. I actually kept Rambo for 2 more years after he retired before he developed his medical condition. I had to put him down. So he lived to be 10 or 11 years old, and he went out. He went out on top. He lived a good life. His last year or so, he was an inside dog, and he loved. I have Christmas pictures with him and the family. I mean, he's an inside dog. On the street, Rambo was the epitome. First off, he was your classic Malinois. He had the black face and the red body. He was big. He was about 65, 70 good solid pounds, and he was just a tough dog. Until one of my other handlers, he got the next dog, Alex, and Alex was a 110-pound Malinois. This dog's head was bigger than mine. He was a horse, but his handler was 6'4", 6'5". You know what I'm talking about, Mike. And so they equaled each other out. We saw those two together. They just looked normal. But around anybody else, it's a nice dog. But no, Rambo knew it. When he saw Dad get in his uniform, he goes, "All right, it's time to go to work." And I put on his collar, and sometimes he had a bulletproof vest. He didn't wear it all the time, but I had a harness for him. When you put a harness on him, he knew now it's business time, and he was nothing but business. And I think, Mike, you made some scenes with me when I was on night shift. If ever I got on a call and I didn't take my dog with me, if you just looked to see where Rambo was, if he was in the truck and he was barking that way, that means Dad went that way. If he was barking this way, Dad went this way. He was good about that. What I did love about my first dog is we were getting ready to run a warrant on this house, and we were there early in the morning, and I pulled up in my Tahoe, I dropped the windows down, and my first dog, he would just lay in the truck, but he had a real mischievous mind, and he was cynical. So he would wait till somebody walked close to the truck. So I remember we're in a little circle, and I watched Mike walk up because he's going to run the show. And Mike walked right next to my Tahoe, and I was like, "Here we go." And right as he got to the window, Iko was like, "Whoa!" And Mike turned 9 shades of white. I thought he was going to kill me. He came over and cursed me out, told me, "You need to do something about that dog," because he just made me crap my pants. And I was like, "Well, that's what he does. He scares people. He gets off anything."
They would. You would forget because, like to a civilian, they always see the canine markings, but to us, we don't. It's just another vehicle. So you'd walk by and your mind's elsewhere. You're thinking about something, and then that barking just out of nowhere, and the whole car's shaking like there's this monster inside there trying to get to you. I want to for the I'm thinking of questions from like a civilian standpoint. Not all. Can you explain not all dogs are trained to bite. Like a patrol dog, some dogs smell, and then some dogs bite, and then some dogs only use odor. How are most of ours
a lot of your
trained?
agencies now are getting away from the bite dogs. I'm not saying the majority, but Deer Park, who's a sister city to us, they're right next door. They have canine, but theirs are they're just a single purpose dog. They're detection, and their cars are all marked up and it says canine on them, but they're just detection dogs. Now, are they capable of biting people? Absolutely, but they're not trained to do so. So the risk is minimal. Whereas our dogs are trained to bite people. They call them dual purpose. They have aggression training, bite training, and narcotics or explosives training, which we don't have any explosive dogs anymore. But there are things we teach our dogs to do, and we actually we try to host a couple times a year where we'll bring out patrol officers. We'll hold a 2 or 3 day course where we actually teach our patrol guys how our dogs are and what to expect from them on calls and what have you. We'll even put you in the bite suit and teach you how to catch dogs. Mike, have you ever done that? You have. Steven, my other friend, he flat out refuses. He thinks people that put on a bite suit and become a chew toy are insane. But Mike and Craig have both stepped up and they've done it, and it's fun. I enjoy it. I think it's just fun.
Hey, I did the demo. Brinker had his dog there, and I put on that thing on your arm, and it blew my mind that the pressure that I felt. I actually had bruises where I guess their canines were here. I had Jacob did it. It blew his mind, and then it was kind of neat because again, working with them, I took them for granted. They were a great tool, but when you work around it every day, you're not like, oh wow, there's canine. It's just part of it. That really impressed me. And then they did that demonstration where they would hide stuff and all that stuff inside the building. It was really really cool. But all of our dogs are patrol, right? Well, y'all work on biting. Y'all work on odor detection.
Well, we have the 5 patrol dogs. They do the bite stuff and the narcotics detection. And remember, recently we added the bloodhound, which I think he's going to be our one and done. I don't think we're going to continue the program, but he's a search and rescue dog and a PR dog.
Well, Brandon's coming on in a couple of weeks. So if he hears you say that, he might want to kill you. He'd be like, no, this dog, we're going to have this program forever. But he has a beautiful, what is it, a
little
bloodhound?
interesting factoid is when they were transitioning. So the sergeant over K9 started the training of the bloodhound, and it got to be too much. And the way one of our assistant chiefs wanted to go with it is they wanted to assign it to an investigator, to have the investigator, because they knew the dog wasn't going to be out all the time. So for about a 3.5, 4 month period, they did a little test run, and Chief was with me. I had him here at this house, and I went to training with him and did it. He's a beautiful dog, but he's dumb
so
as a box of hammers.
He's so pretty.
But his nose.
Oh, Brandon's coming on.
He won't.
He's going to kill you.
He's a beautiful dog, and I tell you what, Mike is not intelligent as he is when it comes time to work. You think the Malinois and the German Shepherd's noses are amazing? Bloodhound noses, let me tell you, you can. So for us, we'll go and we'll do a 200 or 300 yard track around buildings, around cars, on hard surfaces, and on grass. A bloodhound, when you set a track for a bloodhound, it's like, I kid you not, I could call up one of the guys today and say, hey man, training's tomorrow. Can you go to San Jacinto College, which isn't too far from here, and I need about a 1.5 mile track. Start here and end here. Just so I know, and then I'll come in tomorrow night and we're going to run that track. That's an actual bloodhound track. Is 24 hours later, 1 mile to 2 miles long, and they'll do it. We've had the bloodhounds can track people to get into cars.
Wow.
And bloodhounds are amazing. But that dog is.
So I got to, right before I retired, we did that collaborative training with K9 at night. And so we would have the drones up, and it was so cool to put the drone on infrared. And then we could see the bad guy, and we'd watch the K9 handler go through. And then, I mean, this person's hidden. I mean, it's pitch black out there, and that dog go right to him, and find them. So that stuff's pretty awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
Casey, I got a question for you about the you're talking about how some departments are starting to shy away from the bite part. So as just a layperson, that just seems to me like a bad idea. Just by the nature of what you do, it would seem like you would want your dog trained to go get to choose somebody.
Is because they're animals, and some of them are very well trained, and some of them, their handlers kind of let it go by the wayside, and you run the risk of accidental bites. We've had and Mike can attest to this. Early on in our careers, we've had an entire canine unit where you didn't really want to call them out because chances are the cops were going to get bit before the bad guy was going to get bit, because these dogs were just, their training wasn't up to par, or the quality of dog wasn't up to par, and it was just a mess. And
what about the guy who got bit on the bicep? He was bit
by one of our dogs. It just about shredded his whole bicep.
I mean,
and that almost single-handedly killed our entire program, because one of the powers that be, he retired as an assistant chief. After seeing that, he all but made it his quest in life to just completely dissolve the canine unit. People don't really realize, it's an expensive endeavor to police departments to go into, but it's also this tremendous asset. And I tell people all the time, you can't really quantify the capability of a dog by splattering canine on the side of your truck. And I used to drive around with my windows down at night, and I would beg for my dog to bark at anything. Rambo would, Iko wouldn't, but Rambo would bark at everything. If it thundered and lightning outside, he'd bark, and it cracked me up. But what a psychological deterrent that is, just to have a dog. When I pull somebody over on traffic for speeding, running a red light, or anything, I automatically had the windows drop. And as soon as I got out of the truck, Rambo would lose his mind. And the people in the car would generally be like, what is that? I'm like, well, that's my canine partner. If anything bad happens, I push a button, he comes out, and he takes care of business. I never had a problem on a traffic stop. Everybody always was super, super nice to me, and I'd sign the ticket. And they're just like, the funny thing was, after I retired Rambo, I stayed in the unit for about another month. And I still had the Tahoe, but I didn't have a dog in it. But what I did is I Bluetooth synced my laptop with my speakers in the car, and I YouTube dogs barking. And every time I got out of the Tahoe, I'd hit that button, and people thought I had a rabid dog in the back of my car when it was actually just YouTube going. So, but yeah, they're an invaluable asset. Just physically seeing them. This is what they used to pound into us in the military, is having a dog is a psychological deterrent, because people will second guess. people on our traffic stops or whatever look at us like, I think I can outrun this cop on foot. But as soon as you break out with a dog, they're like, nope. 4 legs always beats 2.
Well, I got two more questions for you, and if you guys have questions for you on canine too, I'm gonna give you.
That's my chair.
What was that? Oh, okay. It's like, whoa.
Can you be an adult for a minute, Mike?
I'm sorry.
Mike would do that. That is so Mike.
Oh gosh. Two more questions. One kind of serious, quasi-serious, and one serious. How did you deal with the tremendous, disgusting odor that was your vehicle as a canine officer, and how you dealt with all the hair? Every time I go near one of y'all's vehicles, I'm like, how do you drive around in that crap all night? And then number two, tell the people without revealing anything we don't need to reveal, but you don't do the commands in English. Give us a little bit why y'all use different languages.
Sure. So Eric, Chris, y'all both know Mike is if you've ever been in his car, it doesn't matter if he's had the car 10 minutes or if he's had the car 10 years, you can eat off of the engine bay, the trunk, the floorboards, just he keeps it immaculate. I think there's something wrong with him, quite frankly. But,
yes,
I would clean my police canine Tahoe every week, vacuum it out, because I'm like you. I didn't like all the hair everywhere. You go nose blind to the smell of dog. I bathe my dog. I try to bathe him once a month because I love a clean dog. They just look good. They're shiny and whatever. And I brush him, and then you get all the hair. So, but inevitably, with the equipment you have in the truck and the dog, and over time, you're not going to get all the hair. And your vehicle smells like a dog. Like it would get to the point where I think my car smells really, really good. My wife would get in and she goes, how do you ride this thing? It smells like a wet dog, and I don't smell anything. It's just because I'm used to it. And like my Marine Corps background, I loved having a squared away uniform with shiny boots. Well, after 5 minutes with a dog, that was gone. It was done. So you do the best you can, and you just acknowledge the fact that you're going to smell like a dog and you're going to have dog hair on you 24/7, and you're okay with it. You'll have it your food as you're eating. If you can't get out and eat in a restaurant,
part of being a dog lover, right?
So you overcome it. So you just get used to it. And what was your second question?
Oh, the commands in different languages.
In the Marine Corps, all of our dogs, we got them from overseas and brought them here. Brought them to the States. They went to Lackland, and even Lackland bred dogs, and we get dogs from them. All those dogs were taught in English commands, just because, like me, I had 4 dogs in the Marine Corps in 6 years. So easy transition is all the commands were done in English, so it was just easy for all of us to know. Now, people would say, well, they train them in different languages because they don't want people to know your commands. No. If you tell my dog a command, there's a lot of us, we would teach our dogs that if somebody else gave them a command, our dogs would attack or bark at them. We had my kennel master, my last kennel master, she had the only female dog in our kennel. And when anybody would call her dog by her slang name, she would flip out, slinging all kinds of stuff and just go crazy. She was crazy. She fit the word. And it's how you refer to a female dog. And she was that in every essence of it. Fast forward to the police department, we get dogs from overseas where they get procured and brought over to us. And we've gotten dogs that are trained in Czechoslovakian. We've got dogs that are trained in German, Dutch. And then, so it is whatever they come over with. So I've had to learn the different language, and it doesn't mean we're not trying to hide anything from anybody. We're not trying to because you can go on your phone right now and Google Belgian Malinois police commands for a dog, and it'll give them in every language that we do it in. And you're not going to have one up on us or anything. You just may understand, oh, he just told his dog to sit, or he just told his dog to stay, or he just told his dog to. My favorite thing to do to people is I'd get a group of people around and they'd get on the subject of whatever, and I'd look down at my dog and I'd go, kill, and everybody'd freeze and like, oh, and I'd be like, oh, he's not going to do anything unless I told him this other command. So it's quite funny. So, but yeah, the language doesn't mean a whole lot. And plus, some of those languages, when you say them the way you need to say them to get the dog to do what you needed to do, that language is perfect. It's perfect. So, and I still know it. I try it on my wife all the time. I'll tell her something in German, and she just looks at me like I'm crazy.
So, Casey, I got a question for you. I know we got to probably move on, but so Rambo, for instance, he worked when you worked, right? Are you the only person he could work with? Like, is that dog just you? Does he work your shift and only your shift?
And so we just like us, when you're off duty, you want to be off, you don't do anything. So when he got home, the commands were minimal. I mean, I gave him almost nothing. He was just a dog. He gets in the door at the house. He's now a dog. I could tell him, get in his house, get out of his house, or eat, don't eat, or go use the bathroom. Everything they did, we told him what to do. Until he got home, he could just be a dog. But yeah, he went with me. What I did, and each handler's different, is I tried to associate him with different police officers, not necessarily dog handlers, just in the off chance if something were to happen to me, like Mike, I familiarized Mike and Stephen and Craig with this, where if something were to happen to me, they could go to my dog and take him and put him back in the truck, or put him in their car and take him home in case something happened to me. Some of the handlers, they didn't believe in that, where you couldn't get near their dogs. Back in the Vietnam era, when they were using Dobermans and stuff like that, it was common practice that if a handler got hurt or wounded, they'd shoot and kill the dog because nobody could get to the dog or to the handler, because the dog would eat them alive, so it would kill the dog. Well, my philosophy is I would associate it with my patrol shift, let them be around him, let them know that, hey, things are going to be one of the biggest things, and I meant to tell you this earlier, is I've had several instances where a suspect's fled on foot, and I've deployed my dog, and everybody knows. I get on the radio and I tell them, look, I was going to bail out of this truck. I'm going to send my dog, and everybody knows that. And they just wait for the show, and the dog goes, and the dog takes down the bad guy, and he's latched on. We teach our dogs to bite and hold. We don't teach them to eat people. We don't teach them to thrash or do any of that stuff. Anything a dog does to you, our dogs do to you when they're on your arm or your leg or wherever they bit you at, is because of you're fighting against them. And they're trained to bite and hold. So we had this one instance, guy runs, deployed the dog takes him down, dog's on his arm, hold him down, guy's screaming bloody murder. And all the officers showed up, and they just stood around in a big circle. They didn't know what to do. Well, one of the other dog handlers comes up behind me with me, and he goes and shoves everybody out of the way, and he jumps on the guy, and he puts him in handcuffs. My dog's not letting go of the bad guy. It's our policy that we don't take our dog off of the suspect until he's in handcuffs, until the situation is secure. And it took a little while for these patrol officers to realize, oh, he's not going to come off the bite and bite me. He'll do what his dad tells him to do. In theory, yeah. In theory. I can't say it's happened 100% of the time, but part of taking our bite course that we do with patrol guys is you get to see they'll bite hold of that suit, and that's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. And you'll get right up to them. We'll love on them. We'll praise them. We'll do all those things while the guy in the suit's kicking around or whatever, and they're not letting go until dad tells them to let go. Does that answer your question, Eric?
I found them. They're terrifying. Even when they would bring them up and let us pet them, I barely, let them smell. And then the scariest part for me is whenever they would let them off leash. And I can remember on night shift one time, like one of them came around the corner at me, like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and this big dog comes around the corner, and I'm just like crapping my pants. I'm like, friend, happy, uniform. Yeah, we're friends. I can tell you this, don't bite me.
Real quick story. One of my best chases ever. I got this chase. These guys stole this van full of equipment. We chased them all through the city, and I went from being nowhere in the chase to being the number one guy in the chase, which is a beautiful place to be, especially when you're a canine handler. So this guy goes, I don't think he knew where he was going. He goes off into South Houston. He's going in and out of the neighborhoods. And I get on the radio 3 times and tell people, look, this guy's going to bail out of the van. When he does, everybody stay in your car because I'm going to deploy my dog. What that means, everybody understands, is I'm going to open the door and out goes the fur-covered missile, right? He's gone. So don't get between him. So the guy ended up going down a dead-end street.
Yes. He
bails out of the van. The van continues rolling. I slam on the brakes, throw my vehicle in park. Of course, now my eyebrows go together. The things come out. I'm going to get my police dog, and I open the door. And as I'm opening the door, I'll never forget it. The best image in my brain is seared for the rest of life. As I look back at this line of police cars, and every one of them are just like this. Here comes the dog. They're just waiting. And I get ran. You're right. And I get Ico out, and this guy's got it easy. 50 to 100 yards on us, and I'm screaming, stop! We have to give a warning, at least 2 warnings, a verbal warning. And I'm screaming. You can hear me on my body camera. Stop! Or I'll release my dog. Stop! Or I'll release my dog. And I look down at my dog, and I give him the command. And I let him go. And away he goes. Well, no sooner do I do that than out of the blue, you see this police car pull up, and the officer gets out and he starts running after the suspect. Now I have a police officer between my dog and the suspect, and I'm like, so now I'm going from telling my dog to go bite this guy. I'm calling back. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, calling back. And I would like to think that with my dog's experience and training and all the amazing training that I've bestowed on him, that he blew right past that cop, went straight to the bad guy, and took him down. And after it was all said and done, we took the guy in custody, and everything's great. I walked up to that officer and I said, if my dog had bitten you, that'd have been your fault because you got between him and the bad guy. And he was like, you released the dog? And everybody else was like, you idiot. He said it 3 times on the radio. So it happens.
Well, I would like to add, that wasn't your best chase, because your best chase was the one that were in 18. I nearly watched you die from chasing a car. It was the second unit, and the light turned red, and Casey and Steve kept going, and I watched this 18-wheeler lock up its brakes, and my friend nearly disappeared into a cloud of debris.
Let me give my perspective on that.
Yeah,
Mike says that all the time.
I give him.
And it's true. That was a hairy chase. It was. I could have asked for better circumstances. I'm driving. One of my best friends is in the passenger seat with me. My other best friend is in the police car behind me. Perfect. So we go through this big intersection where you can see in all 4 directions. And sure, here comes an 18-wheeler. Suspect goes through the red light. I'm like, I got this. I go through. Well, I made it. That was a 28 or I forget 28 or 38 minute chase that we were in. It was the longest chase any of us have ever been in. It finally concludes, we get the bad guy, and after everything settles down, and Mike tells that story all the time, and I'm like, whatever. Well, I finally tell Mike, I go, you know what? I was cool as a cucumber when I went through that intersection. I didn't think anything about it. What I didn't tell them was I saw all the white smoke pouring off that 18-wheeler's tires because he had locked it up to prevent from hitting me. And I was just, by the grace of God, boom, we went through the intersection and didn't get hit.
Yeah, I was like, I bet when you saw that, you were like, maybe I don't know if I think I misjudged this intersection. Maybe just
I've had a few of those. Nothing near as intense as that, of course, but running in the ambulance and the fire truck, I've busted some pretty big intersections. And when you get into this line of work, you think that everybody thinks that that's the bee's knees, and that's the be all end all, the chases and going fast with lights and sirens. It takes about a month and a half of that to realize that ain't all it's cracked up to be.
I tell people all the time after that chase, after all the adrenaline and everything, I'd gotten home. I mean, we worked probably 2 or 3 more hours after the fact and wrote the report and did all those things. And I got home and finally cooled down. I threw my guts up and I was sick. And just because everything rushed in about, I could have got me killed. I could have got my best friend killed. I could have got Mike killed. It just, all these things go through your head. It just made me sick. And I was like, I don't want to get in another chase for a while. And of course, a week later, somebody gets in the chase and here we go. So
there you go. Yeah. I've seen the whites of many people's eyes passing through the intersections in my bumper, my front bumper of the ambulance or the engine many times.
Yep. You're getting old in law enforcement when you no longer fear the citizens hitting you, but young cops.
That's true.
Trying to get to the chase and hitting you on the way there. And that's a legit worry. That's when you realize you're capable of dying in the job. All right. So we've hit the canine. That was extremely interesting. But our focus of the show is ultimately, all of our walks with the Lord, and all of us have had long storied past, and none of us are perfect. We've had some rough times, but a lot of people they'll have a seminal moment where they can remember being saved. Other people like me, it was not like that. It was a long process where it's kind of there. Can you tell us about your walk? And was it a seminal moment, or how did your?
So I was raised in the church. I've only been a part of 2 churches, and I'm in my second one now. So church has always been a thing with me. I like to think I have a decent relationship with God and an understanding of everything. I haven't always been the best Christian out there. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I've fallen. My time in the Marine Corps, I kind of kicked myself because I really, that was 6 years I've been under my mom and dad's roof for 18 years, and now I'm all out on my own. I can do what I want to. And I think in those 6 years, I might have stepped foot in a church, not here at home. Every time when I was home and mom and dad would go to church, I would go. But when I was back in California, I didn't. And there were several times that I should have. I mean, I guess I wander off the path every so often here. Early on in my faith and my walk, I've had some dark times. I'd say my first marriage was I didn't marry the woman with the intent of getting a divorce. I always thought that we'd be married forever, and things didn't just work out the way they should have. Of course, that blame goes two ways. It's not just me. It's not just her, but it's both. There's things that both of us could have done. We tried. But and that'll always be, in my opinion, I'm not very proud of that fact. I wish things didn't turn out the way they did, but, when dark and stuff like that happens, God always finds a way to it's a teaching moment. Plus, you learn about yourself and you learn more about your faith. And and Mike will tell you, I don't know if you remember, but it was towards the end of the time I was on nights before I transitioned to day shift, that I was in a pretty dark place, pretty damaging. I wasn't making very good decisions. I was doing. I mean, professionally, you never would have known it. Personally, emotionally, I was a wreck. I was pretty tore up and I felt alone, and that and so itself was my biggest fear. And I was doing things that I'm not proud of, and making decisions and stuff that was just horrible. And I was looking for something, and I was looking in all the wrong places and doing all the wrong things. And I'd stepped away from the church again, and I wasn't in a good place. I don't like that person, never did. And just by the grace of God, I met this amazing woman. I just met her on an accident. I spent maybe 10, 15 minutes with her taking a report, but there was something about her that stuck out to me. And it wasn't until about a year later, I was already separated from my wife. And lo and behold, one of my best friends, his wife, happens to be best friends with this woman, and she's going through a divorce and had some issues and stuff like that. And they kind of put us together. And you want to talk about grace and just almost like a no kidding sense of God talking to you, was bringing her into my life, and she opened things up to me, and she brought me back to church, and taught me that though you've made mistakes, you can be forgiven, and life isn't all bad, and don't be afraid to open up to people. And I fell in love with that woman from then on, and I just couldn't wait to see her, and it just worked out to where we fell in love and got married, and to this day I hit my knees every night and every morning that God brought her into my life, and I give her a lot of the kudos to bringing me out of that dark space. But it was really Jesus Christ and my faith that did it. I was just a blockhead about it, and there are so many moments I can look back and think where I use this metaphorical symbol, but there's so many times where I felt this on the back of my head, and that was God telling me, "Hey, idiot, if you'll just listen to me, I know what I'm talking about." And eventually I got through my thick skull, and it worked out. And she's
many years ago
been
was that?
godsend ever since. Let's see, we've been married 15 and a half, so 16 and a half, 17 years ago. And it's made all the difference.
Awesome. Congratulations. She's a good
God's
lady.
timing is perfect, and His grace,
Amen.
His mercies are
Absolutely.
new every morning. We need Him every morning.
So,
And what about, did you also find, and I think this is a crutch, talking about a regret going back into my career, is that I didn't really bring any of that to work. I kept my Christian stuff on the side, and at work, we didn't talk about it a whole lot. And then I always said it was hard. Looking back, that's really just an excuse. We'd even talked about doing some Bible studies, and then we never did it.
Yeah.
We didn't follow through. Craig and I talked about doing them when I was over in IED, didn't follow through. And I look back, and that's a regret. That was a crutch. and I was too worried about what other people thought of me in that type A, rough and tough.
It's so funny because through the years I've met people that I don't advertise what I do professionally. It's not because I'm ashamed of it or I don't want them to know. I just don't advertise it. Some people live, eat, and breathe law enforcement, and they wear the thin blue line shirt and they have the cop hat, and you can tell they do all that stuff it just screams police officer, right? They wear the 5'11" cargo pants and the way they dress, you're like, that's got to be a cop. Well, that wasn't me. And one of the things I love to hear from people is after, either 10 minutes of talking to me or 2 weeks after they've met me, they're like, you're a cop? And they just didn't know it because that's how I didn't carry myself. Well, Mike, you can agree to this. You go to work, we put on that armor, our armor physically and psychologically if we're cops. And we don't want to talk about religion. We don't want to talk about God. We want to take care of this call and we want to move on to the next one. And I know, and he's with us everywhere we go and everything we do. And people can see that quality in us. I've been approached by people over the years that they'll ask me religious questions, and it shocks me that every once in a while I actually know the answer to it. And I'm just like, wow, that wasn't me, but it's just how we carry ourselves is we put up that big, huge facade and we have our armor on, and we don't want to give the impression that we're weak just because we're religious, and we're dumb and naive about those things. And yeah, I kick myself too. But one of the best things that ever happened, and I haven't said this openly in front of Mike, and I've been meaning to tell him, is as the last time we were up at your place with all four of us, that's the first time the four of us have gotten together like that, and who knows when. And we sat in your garage and we talked religion, we talked all that stuff, and I told my wife when I got back, I said, it just made me fall in love with my best friends all over again. I saw y'all on a different level now, and it blew me away. And she goes, how sweet is that? You fell in love with your friends again. I said, you just don't know all the junk and garbage that we've ever been through for the last 20 plus years to sit in a room, four guys who would, back in the day, we'd rather talk about the car chases or the slutty women that we see on calls. We'd much rather sit around and talk about Jesus. I mean, to me, it was just amazing. It just showed our level of maturity had changed. It was awesome. My mother-in-law just walked in when I said that. She looked at me like, what? Yeah.
Who is this? What? Well, and it made it more interesting too because Steve is a Catholic, and so it's so foreign to me, and so we have good debates, and we jack with each other on it, and I jack with him about being a Catholic. We have a good time.
The beautiful thing is we all
did y'all have anything else?
We all collectively agree that we're all going to heaven, and we all know Christ, and so that's all we can agree about it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Y'all go ahead.
You got anything, Chris?
Yeah, you go first. I got something at the very end.
Man, I just I got a lot. There's so much we could talk about. There's so many other things I'd love to talk to you about. I know one thing. We got to get this cat up here, Mike.
September.
We got to get him up here and hang out a little bit. Yeah.
We're going to take yes.
Let's go.
Hey, so I can smoke all of y'all in karting. What?
Yes. Casey, we gotta talk off.
Here we go. You just opened a can of worms now. Here
this guy right here below me weighs like about 20 pounds. We can clip him in the parking lot where he beats all of us.
We can clip him in the parking lot where that way he never makes it to the track, so it'll be all right.
I actually weigh $180 now.
We're gonna wreck him. You and I are gonna get together. We can wreck him. We ain't gotta worry about it.
You got to catch me first, son.
No, I'm gonna catch you when you pass me because your car's faster than mine on straightaway. I'm gonna clip you. I've seen a lot of videos.
Excuses are
on
like
pit
noses.
maneuvers.
Everybody's got one.
Hey, you're gonna find out what a pit maneuver is.
Hey, I want to add before I turn it over to Chris and I want to thank you for everything you've done, your service to our country, your service to, you as a police officer. But also, man, I thank you for what you're doing in the school board and education. We didn't get to talk about that. And I know, and I would love to chat with you about that sometime. That's got to be, it's got to be incredibly rewarding at some points, but it's also got to be, I would guess, one of your biggest challenges. I mean, that's got to be a huge challenge to to handle that load, especially with all our kids are facing now.
Well, we're getting ready.
So thank you for doing that as well.
There's a couple of really big decisions come up, and when I can speak about it, I will. But I'll tell you, people ask me that, how do you balance out your regular job and your school board job? And I say it like this: is there are days where I'm frustrated with my real job, that it's a blessing to be able to go over to the school board and do that work, because a lot of times they're really happy and grateful that you're there. Whereas the other side, those people aren't necessarily happy to see me. And then there are times where this past week has been a struggle with the school board stuff that's going on, that it's kind of rewarding to go back and to put people in jail. It makes me feel better. So it's a give and take. I didn't really ever think about it until Mike talked to me about doing the podcast, that I pretty much based my entire adult life on service. And it's not because it's anything that I designed. I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm going to do it. It's just I love what I do. I love being a police officer. I love being on the school board. I love just helping and doing things. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's so true. We're on this earth. You're only going to be here a short amount of time. If you can leave a lasting impression on somebody just because you were a good guy and you would help out where somebody needed it, then why not? I guess that's my strength, and I enjoy it.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Man, you make my heart happy, man, talking about your service dogs and all that, man. I'm a dog guy. I got 2 65-pound golden doodles. They're far from service dogs.
We can teach them some stuff.
And I've been a dog.
Okay.
Let's do it. That'd be awesome. Charlie and Marley. The 4 questions. Okay. All right. We have 4 questions we ask every guest on our show. And the first question is, this is going to be just kind of rapid fire. What is your favorite app?
I'm kind of a techie guy. This is going to sound kind of nerdy. I mean, I like little games that are on my phone, just stupid games, mind games, puzzles. I like those kind of stuff. But I like the technology. Like my house, it drives my wife crazy. She says, God forbid anything ever to happen to me, she wouldn't be able to turn lights on or off or shut things, the alarm and all that stuff. I just think it's cool that I can control those things from my phone. So I like that kind of stuff. And I like.
Yeah.
I got the Vivint app for my alarm system. I can turn the lights, the living room lights and the outside lights on. And I have fence lights out here that every once in a while I like to mess with people in my house that don't know it, and I'll turn them on and off, and they'll just freak out. They're like, "Did you see that happen?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So just cool stuff like that. So I'm kind of geeky in that way. Yep.
Techie app. Awesome. Question number 2, favorite podcast.
This one. There's none other. I love this. I love
none other.
Right, so
you guys don't know, but on Monday mornings, I go into my office. I get there a little early. I don't have to be at work till 7, so I'm typically there around 6:30. I got my coffee. I put my headphones on, and I turn on this podcast. I don't talk to anybody else until I get through y'all's podcast, and it sets the tone for the rest of the week. You guys make me happy.
That's
for those
awesome.
of you, the people that don't know, Casey's listened from the very beginning. He always comments on every episode, and he is a faithful fan. For
Good
sure.
stuff.
What's your favorite other?
Oh,
podcast?
Sean Ryan. I love listening to that dude talk and the people he talks to. That's some good stuff. And then also, some of those. I tell this Mike all the time. My favorite thing is I read books about generals and big important decisions, and like Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell and Mattis, and I just like listening. Even George W. Bush, his decision making during some crucial times, 9/11, all that stuff. So to listen to Sean Ryan, he talks to some of those Navy SEALs when they're talking about some of the situations they get in and the decision making. I just love to hear them talk and what goes through their brain when they talk about it.
And you and your wife have kind of a thing y'all do, don't you, where you visit all the presidential libraries?
We started that about 10 or 12 years ago, where we the two of us, we're like old people. We like to travel around because her job takes her places. And if there's a presidential library, we've gone to LBJ. We've gone to all the ones in Texas. We've gone to Kennedy's. We've been to, what have we've been to a few of them. They're interesting. It's neat. I'm dying to go back to A&M to see HW's because now he's got the train that took his casket to its final resting place, and there's a Marine One helicopter in there. And I also want to go to Reagan's. I have to see Reagan's because he's got an Air Force One. So
we're going to do that together because I want to see Reagan. And have you been to our trailer, our Bill Clinton's trailer in the Arkansas River?
I affectionately call that
library?
That's Hillary Clinton's library. It just has a little bit of Bill Clinton seasoned in there. It's neat. It's interesting. It's interesting.
It's interesting.
When you've been to some of the other presidential libraries, and then you see how that one's laid out, you're like, wow. Like literally Kennedy's. When you go to Kennedy's, it could have very well been called Jackie Presidential Library instead of his, because there's so much more about her than there is of him. But they're both really, really good. And, I've been to Ford's in Michigan. If you get the chance, I know it's Ford. It's actually really, really cool. It's super, super cool.
Awesome.
Question number 3. If you could tell your 20-year-old self anything, give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would it be? Don't
be so hard on yourself. I am my own worst enemy. When I've made mistakes and done some things and screwed up here and there, you'd think the whole world come to an end. And actually with Mike and Steve and Craig, my three wise men, they've kind of softened me up where I'm not near as critical. They're critical of me, but not near as bad as it used to be. But not to be so critical of myself. We all make mistakes. It's not the mistake you made. It's how quickly and easily you snap back and learn from it. And I think over the last probably 15 years since I'm married to my wife, I've done a lot better in that department.
That's a great advice. And lastly, what is something about you that people who know you might be surprised to learn?
I never was and never have been, and I'm very much an introvert, and I don't like public speaking. I don't like to get up in front of large crowds, but you never would have guessed. Go back and look at everything that I do. Virtually everything involves getting up in front of people and talking to people, and it terrifies me to no end. The school board stuff really terrifies me because I'm standing up in front of educated people, doctorates and stuff like that. It terrifies me. And I try not to embarrass myself around my family. So, that's probably one of the biggest things is I can't believe that I do what I do now.
What about, do you put stuff together every now and then? You got anything like that?
I have been known on occasion to build a few Lego things. I have the Atlas rocket. I have the Michael Keaton Batmobile, and I have the Christian Bale tumbler. I love Batman. Batman's my guy. And I have a bunch of other little Lego stuff. So I'm a nerd, dude. I'm not going to lie to you. I love movies and nerds and superheroes and all that geeky stuff. But I love cars and stuff like that too.
Yes.
Like it breaks my heart that Mike drives a Dodge now.
Ain't that wrong with models? It's a Ram,
Chrysler product.
Don't be hating on
I
models.
I love me some models. Mike got me back into models. I have a few. I have an SR-71. I love that airplane.
Hey, when we get older, become a nerd. Mm-hmm. Nerds are happy. All right, it's all those bitter, angry, wannabe tough guys. Casey, all of us. I've got my man card.
That's right.
And so we're good.
So
we can be nerds. Embrace your Legos.
You don't got to be an old man to be a nerd. You don't have to be an old man.
There you go.
Hey, my mom used to tell people all the time. She said, I had a little tackle box full of Lego as a kid, a little bit kid. And Mom said that I would dump it out in the living room. And she goes, I knew right where Casey was 24/7. That's where he would be. Fast forward to now that I'm in my 50s, if I get a Lego kit, and my wife has been known to go buy me a Lego kit, she goes, I know exactly where he's going to be. He's either building his Legos or he's on his video games with his friends. I don't have to worry about him out running the roads or doing anything silly like that. So life has come full circle for me.
Indeed.
There you go. I got a question for you, and I think I know some of the answers to this, but I obviously know you're an Aggie, and you obviously love your Astros there. So That's great, but it's so. Are you a sports guy?
I'm an amateur sports guy. I love all Houston sports. You name the Houston sport, I'm there. I'm an Aggie. I haven't always been an Aggie because college. I didn't really start getting into college until I met this guy, and I'm a huge U of H fan because I got to go watch the Cougars play during the Case Keenum years, and man, what a time to be alive and to witness all that stuff. I didn't recently become an A&M fan until my daughter went to A&M, and there by proxy, since my money goes to A&M, I become an A&M fan. And every Christmas and birthday was sponsored by Adidas A&M, so that's why I have a whole bunch of A&M swag. So I'm an amateur sports fan. I listen to you guys really get into the nuts and bolts of stuff, and y'all lose me. But I couldn't wait to throw some shade on you about the College World Series because I knew y'all were talking about it and how y'all wish Arkansas would get their head out of the backside. So I had to throw a little shade y'all's way, but I got nothing but love for the Hogs.
Project Convert Casey to a Hog begins now. Mike,
yes.
You failed. You're out. You're out.
No, we ever get him? He's been to Arkansas game.
I wore an Arkansas sweatshirt, and I never thought I would do that. And he got me to a game, and we had a blast.
Yep. Okay. We had a blast.
We got to get him to Baum Walker Stadium for baseball.
In. You say when
a big series
there.
or something.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Forgive me, sir,
Casey
Mike.
will do it too. Yes, you're forgiven. I did my best to indoctrinate my Texas friends into the wonderfulness of this state. But yeah, Casey will do it. If we say come to a game, he'll make a way to get here, man. He's good about that. Even though it's 500 miles away, he'll still do it.
We need to go to a basketball game, fellas, because Calipari has got
whatever you want to do. I love the fellowship and I love the camaraderie of the fans and getting into it, especially when the home team wins. That's just awesome.
Hey, and these boys down here we've all been to an Astros game together at Minute Maid Stadium.
I don't know. Have I shown you, Mike?
It was a blast.
Remember the first U of H game last year? The football team came out in the U of H Cougar uniform, but it was all the Oilers colors. I actually have one of those jerseys that says Houston across it. I bought that.
Yeah.
And they got sued. They got served a cease and desist letter from the Titans saying, "Hey, you can't do that." Well, you know what the Houston Cougars told them? You don't have control over those colors. They're going to do it again this year. You watch. And I think that's awesome.
I do like that.
Let's go.
I do like that.
Man, Casey, thank you for coming on. Our mission for this show is just to encourage men to fight the good fight, to keep fighting the good fight, or get started fighting the good fight. And after you're listening to your story and everything you've done in your life, sounds like you've always been fighting the good fight. Thank you for your service. Thank you for coming on. And we look forward to hanging out maybe this fall in Arkansas.
I really appreciate it. Anytime y'all want me on, man, I can ramble on about dogs all day, every day. I love it. It's the best job in the whole world. I think what you guys are doing, this is amazing. And I love it. It doesn't matter if you touch one person and you convince them that it's worth fighting and standing up and doing what's right and living by Christ, and I'm all for it. I got your back. And I'd like to think that I have two new friends now, and I can't wait to see you guys in person so we can mess with each other in Arkansas here in the not too distant future.
Definitely. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Y'all have a good week. Thank you for listening to the Life After Sunday podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a comment, and go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.